Hi kids, it's Jenny. Today I thought I'd read you a couple of stories, Bible stories that David Kossoff wrote quite a long time ago. And this one is called The Lord's Anointed and is about how David was anointed king of Israel. Samuel, when he was old, was one day sitting in his garden and thinking yet again what a great disappointment his two sons had been to him. Maybe they'd had in him too much to live up to, but certainly they weren't much good. Like him, they were judges, but they were not honest men. They took bribes, and yesterday's visit from the elders of the people hadn't helped either. Your sons are no good, they'd said, and you, Samuel, are old. So give us a king to govern us. No more judges, a king like other nations. Samuel closed his eyes and told it all quietly to God, and after a while God replied. First of all, said God, I understand that people are not rejecting you. No, as so many times before, they're rejecting me. To have me for king would be enough, you'd think, but no. All right, said God, let them have a king. But tell them first what having a king entails. They will be his soldiers and servants and factory workers. Their best farms and cattle and possessions will be his by right. Anything he wants, they will have to give him. He will have power over life and death. They will be hardest hit where it hurts most, in the pocket. To have a king is very expensive. Tell them. And Samuel did tell them. But the people refused to listen to Samuel. So Samuel went where God had led him and chose a young man who was tall and broad and handsome and anointed him king. His name was Saul. As a king, he turned out to be no great bargain. And that's why Samuel was out looking for a replacement fairly soon. And that's where this story really begins. It begins like the story of Ruth in Bethlehem, where another story, more famous than either of them, began. It begins about 1,000 years before that other story, 1,000 years BC. It begins with a rather puzzled man, Ruth's grandson Jesse, a farmer, now middle-aged and with 8 sons. It was to his eldest son, a soldier called Eliab, that Jesse was speaking. It's all very puzzling, he said. Out of their blue, there comes to Bethlehem the prophet Samuel, whom we haven't seen since we all went to Mizpah for the crowning of King Saul, and you got excited and joined the king's army. I know, said Eliab. I'd heard that Saul had retired or gone into exile or something. Seems that he was very cross with Saul after that battle with the Amalekites and regretted making him king. The story was that Saul disobeyed the rules given by God to Samuel for kings to follow. I don't know the details, said Eliab, but we did win the battle. Saul knows how to fight, even if he does break rules. Jesse hadn't really been listening to his son. Samuel comes to Bethlehem, he said, to make a sacrifice to God. He even brings a young heifer with him for the offering. He is met by the elders who are nervous of him, and no wonder. Samuel, the great judge, the prophet, the kingmaker. Then the sacrifice is arranged to take place in our big field, and we are invited. Jesse and all his sons, Samuel said. 1 or 2 of the elders were a bit jealous, I'm told. Ah, well, said Jesse, let's get cleaned up. It's quite an honour, really, a special day. It was indeed. At noon the field was full of people, and the elders had got everything ready. A lot of noise and excitement, for this was the great prophet Samuel, chosen by God while still a child. Maybe some great prophetic announcement was to take place. Well, it did, but quietly in Jesse's own home later. Jesse never forgot it. He was an observant man, was Jesse, and when Samuel had arrived for the sacrifice and the crowd became silent, he'd noticed the great horn of oil at the prophet's belt, chased with silver with a golden lid and handle. It was the anointing horn used by Samuel at Saul's coronation. A special sacrifice, thought Jesse, but the horn stayed unused at Samuel's belt. After the service, Samuel turned and walked over to Jesse, who was a bit overawed by this bearded patriarch with the shrewd eyes. Come, Jesse, said Samuel, let us sit a while in your garden, and let me meet your sons, and then we can eat a little food. Jesse sat next to Samuel under a tree and introduced his sons one by one. He felt a great tension and stillness in the prophet. Eliab, my eldest, said Jesse, next Abinadab, next Shammah, and so on. The young men came forward and bowed. Samuel looked into each face intently, and his head was tilted as though listening. The seventh son stepped back from Samuel and joined his 6 brothers. The prophet turned to Jesse. "Are these all your sons?" he said. Jesse said, "No, one more, David the youngest. He is with the sheep." "Send for him," said Samuel, and did not raise his eyes till the boy stood before him, a handsome, well-built boy with a friendly smile. Samuel looked into the boy's eyes and again seemed to listen. Then he rose to his feet and took the great horn from his belt. "Jesse," he said, "this boy, David the shepherd, your youngest son, will be the next king of Israel, a great king, greater even than Saul, who will reign many years yet. But after him, David, who will know great love and great danger. But God will protect him because," said Samuel, "God has chosen him." Then Samuel anointed David, and David, who didn't much like oil in his hair, went back to his sheep. And Samuel went back home, leaving poor Jesse very puzzled indeed.